Hello, it's Nikki and welcome to a brand new episode. Today feels like I've lifted these notes from a diary entry and there is no such thing, but it feels like that. It feels quite personal sharing all of these things, so do bear with me and hopefully you will be able to take a few things from today's episode and apply them to your own business. And I'm talking about a word today which I've really grappled with and I've really had a relationship with, which sounds very Carrie Bradshaw. It got me thinking. I've had a relationship with it over time, and it's one that I've really had to get to know and find my own way, my own boundaries to have a healthy relationship with it and what that means. And this word, you're like, come on, get to the word. What's the word? This word is simplify. And there have been times where I've had to unpick what this word means and why I am in resistance to it at some times. And why I sometimes make things harder than they need to be. Maybe as I'm saying this, you're nodding along, and I want you to know that none of this that I'm sharing is to make what you're feeling wrong or to bring anything up to the surface and say, oh my goodness, I am so recovered from this moment. I know exactly what it is. Now I'm an expert of this. No, I'm sharing it fresh right now because I'm really in the heart of having a better relationship with it. And there may be something about maybe waiting 6 months and then getting to the end of it and going, this is my relationship with Simplify. This is what I've done. But I thought I would share it right now in terms of what I'm thinking, because it is January 2021 and there is a lot going on in the world right now. And yet, I still want you to progress. I still want you to move forward because I know so many of you really love what you do. You love what you create. You love being in business and creating your own stuff. And it's a real big part of your identity. So when I was thinking about what Simplify meant to me, it started very practically, like, that's a bit confusing on my homepage. No wonder people can't find what they need to. I need to just get rid of that. Or I've got too many offerings here. Right, I'm just going to get rid of that. Or if, again, I've maybe had somebody who said, I can't find the thing that I need on your website. Or do you actually do this? Because that would be really useful. And it's a thing that I absolutely do. I'm like, why is this not connecting? So sometimes you get to that point where you know from a practical standpoint, you need to clean things up a little bit. And that's a really good thing. You know, that's a great thing in terms of your personal brand, because I suspect that you are growing and you're growing fast in lots of different ways. And as you're doing that self-development, as you're doing that business development, the cleanup thing needs to become quicker. And it's not a case of you, I guess, renewing something every 6 months or every year. It's now about those daily check-ins or those weekly or those monthly. I remember my mum having a conversation with me about somebody that we knew who was in the later part of their life, and they're still alive. And a medical professional said to my mum, we will review this situation in a year's time. And my mum was quite flabbergasted by that because this person was in their 90s. And actually a year later, for somebody in their 90s, it's absolutely huge in terms of how they can change and what's going on for them. And that really hit me in terms of my business growth and yours as well, which I'm holding space for, is that you have to check in on a regular basis. This isn't something that you can allow to get stale or just forget about. You need to kind of be on it and looking at it and things like that. And simplifying things has really supported me with that, because now the check-ins that I'm doing are much quicker, and I can sometimes just have that glance over things like, yep, that seems to be working. Yeah, I've been able to tick that off the list. And being able to see stuff and be able to check in that way has made all of that so much easier. But if we go back a little bit, I know that I've resisted the act of simplifying in lots of areas of my life. Here we go. Here we go, dear diary. I've resisted it, and for some reason, I connected the word simple or simplify with boring, with predictable, with run-of-the-mill, with not playing full out, because I guess that's what we saw. And I was thinking about how that has shown up in my life. So definitely in terms of early relationships, I went out with some right wrong uns, friends. Like awful human beings. But there was something about me that loved that chase and loved that. Is he going to call my landline? Is he like, where are we, what are we doing? You know, that sort of that teenage love of like, I remember being dumped at sixth form college, and like the next day I wore black because I was just so distraught. I felt like I was in grief. Like, I'm laughing at myself now, like wow. But you know, that was then and this is now. And that's not to say that I don't crave those big conversations and acts of love and all of that. Of course, that is a really lovely thing as well. But I don't crave that feeling of wanting to save somebody. I really want to be in a partnership where, and I am in a partnership where that person does their own work and development as well, and we do it together. And that I'm not kind of coming over and going, no, I'm going to be the one that you chose, and I'm going to be the crux for all of that sort of stuff. So yes, it showed up in that way in terms of relationships. Also, I really noticed that my parents worked incredibly hard when I was a kid, and they were very much like going above and beyond and doing the right things and being really brilliant humans. And from an early age, I equated results and progress to the number of hours that you put in. And this has really had to be something that I've had to reframe, that it's not a case of working 16-hour days. It's not a case of never taking a time off or a holiday or feeling like I haven't done enough. Actually, if I go back to this simplifying and really noticing what is going on in my business and what is actually working, what are the things that are moving me forward, it's a much simpler process. Also, given this time that we're in, I feel a need for simplification because I don't have excess energy to play around with. And I'm sure that you don't either. And we're all in the same storm and in different boats. You know, people are saying this, but your stress, your tolerance, your capacity, your willingness, your love, your energy, it's all probably been a little bit all over the shop, to say the least, over the last year or so. And it will probably have come in waves. Like, there might be some days where you're going, yeah, I can do this. This is great. I've, done a batch cook and I'm on it. And the homeschooling seems to be going well. And I just landed a new client. And then there might be some days where you're like, I can't take on any of this world, and I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do, and I can't shake it, and I can't dig deep today. So I've definitely had both of those situations, which has again led me back to this word of how can I simplify? And it's a word that I invite you to explore as well, in terms of how can you simplify? Because something that you might have been able to do 18 months ago, launching something new, creating something brand new, launching or devising your greatest creative project of your life, perhaps you don't have that in you right now. And that's completely and utterly understandable. So if we're going back to these frameworks of being here for the long run, which is what I intend to do, and creating long and steady outcomes and progress, I don't want to be one of those people that in 2024 or 2034, that seems even weird just saying that I'm still one of those people who is talking about 2020 and how they took all my dreams away. I don't want to be that person. And I know some people's businesses will be that situation. It will be very hard hitting, very traumatic, and they're going to really feel like they can never recover from this time. And of course, going back to we're all in the same storm, but in very different boats, I totally get that. But I really want to see if I can find a way that I come out of this stronger, that I come out of this with a stronger and a more potent message, and really thinking about how I can simplify things. Because again, this leads me on. If you're not feeling that things are simple in your own life or in your own business, it's going to be really hard to sell. Because if you're not really clear about what's going on and what the process is and how people can choose, then your customer who's maybe meeting you for the first or the second time is going to be really confused anyway. And they're not going to have that like, oh, she's just really creative and lovely, and I'm sure she'll explain it on a call. At this time, people are really struggling to make decisions. So I want you to look at your process on your website, on your social media. How are you leading people in a call to action? Are you making it simple for people to take the action that they need to do? Also, in terms of your own tasks, your own setup, are you making this process easy for you to be able to take action? And one of the things that I've done, which I mentioned in a podcast last week, is I have to have a clear desk going forward. And I sorted everything out last weekend. Today is Friday. And I have to say, I've kept it up all week. It's changed the way that I run my business. Because when I sit down at my desk, even though I might have been up all night with one of my kids or doing things, or, we're all doing things, aren't we? When I sit down, when I'm with a client, I can focus. My energy is really clean. My space feels like it's protected, and that has been really helpful. Maybe you're in a point where also, and I know lots of you are in this situation, where you have either a portfolio career or you have lots of different parts to your business. So I guess in terms of mine, actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcast, within even my coaching, I have the Instagram, it sounds very official, Instagram, podcast, client work, online programs, marketing, accounting. Like there's lots of things within that. There's lots of things that need your attention. And really understanding what you need to be focusing on and where you need to put your energy and where you don't is a marvelous thing. So maybe this is, again, looking back at your sales page and talking about your services and really being clear about what this is not. And so when I'm talking about being a personal branding coach, for example, I am not a Facebook ads expert. I am not somebody who's going to be able to give you a clear LinkedIn strategy. I'm not. Like, I do a bit of LinkedIn. It works for me. Clients come that way, but I'm not an expert in that way. And again, going back to this thing that for some reason, just to be simple and do one thing and really lean into the parts that you're really excellent at, for some reason is a bit of a taboo. And I want to challenge that and go, what would happen actually if you really leaned in to your expertise, to your zone of genius, like Gay Hendricks says in The Big Leap? It's a fantastic book if you haven't read it. What would happen if you really leaned into that and became an expert at that, instead of trying to be all things to all people? Because I know that the way that I was brought up, and I guess my own personality, my own disposition, I am a doer. And if something needs to get done, or, you know, there's a solution that needs to find, I will roll my sleeves up and I will get stuck in and I will give it a go. Like, that is my personality. I cannot bear it. Also, again, this is probably not a great attribute of mine, but I can't bear it where people go, well, that's it then. Like, that's not going to work. Right, okay, end of. Like, that really drives me bonkers. I'm like, no, there must be a way. We can do this. This is the thing. But certainly in the early parts of my coaching, because I am of that position, I would really try and over-deliver and go, no, let me help you with this. Oh, no, I'll do some extra research on this. I'm sure there'll be something that we can do. Don't worry, I'll come back to you. It'll be great. Instead of saying, I don't think I'm the best person for this. Because actually somebody who's just done a little bit of research on the internet and then is coming back is not going to have the same weight of experience and knowledge as somebody who is an expert in that area. So even though you might think that by doing all of the things, you're really serving your client, maybe what you're doing is a disservice. If I gave a bit of a watered down version of something, I'm giving my client a disservice because I'm not the right person to do that. Yes, of course, I'll give it a go, but again, I'm not in service to the client in that moment. I'm going back to what I need of like really thinking, how can I help this person? Another thing that has come up, and I guess this is the final point today, is, I, for some reason, struggle when things are too easy, when things are too straightforward. So this has really been apparent when passive income started to come in. I suddenly was like, oh my goodness, this just feels too easy. Like, this is weird. Am I going to get caught out? Like, this, really? Is this going to happen? But we haven't had a conversation and we haven't done this. And I know where that came from. I really had a sense that I had to earn what my success would be, or I had to earn the meeting, or I had to do a good job, and that there would be a payoff later down the line. So the fact that maybe for my parents that came through hard work, it didn't come easily, maybe there was part of me that took that on and really felt like I had to throw blood, sweat and tears into this process, and it felt like it wouldn't be fair if it was easy. But the thing is, what you'll find is the more that you do something, because of the repetition, because of doing it day in, day out, it will become easier. Because it will, by the nature of it. It's like with running. When I first started, I was like, I can't do this. Don't make me do this. This is awful. But I tell you what, the more I ran, the easier it became. And that's not to say every day I'm like, I am so excited to do that. Sometimes I really resist it. but it does become easier. And that's what will happen in your business. Like the more you do it, or the more you work with clients, the easier that moment will be. The more clients you work with, the more likely they're going to tell people that they've had a great experience, and more clients will come your way. So I want you to think about, what could it be like if it was easy? And if you leaned into it and you trusted this process, that actually you've been building some really strong foundations for a long time. So instead at this time of thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to pivot everything, I've got to change it, I've got to rewrite this and this, how can you trust and lean into the things that you've already done? How can you just sell more of those? How can you maybe tweak something that maybe there was a part of your business that you were like, I only run this thing once every year, but what if the content was already there and you could just go, well, why don't I just focus on that? Because it's not going to take all my time. The work is done. It's full of value. It's action-packed. And let's go. Let's see what that looks like. And I've really noticed this in terms of the podcast. And if you don't necessarily have that trust and faith in your business just yet, let me share this bit with you to know that this will happen. Every single week on my podcast, and I started this 3 years ago, every episode gains listens. Every episode, it goes up every single week. Because sometimes what happens is that people discover one and then they go back and they listen to more and then they look at something else. So imagine what would happen if you just started to reshare some of those old blog posts that you've done. What would happen if you started to really think about that Instagram post that maybe you did in September that maybe 4 people saw? How can you change that and how can you pivot it? It's that old thing of, it's always spoken about in fashion, isn't it? Of like, how can you really make this one item of clothing work for you? And sometimes it's been, especially, having 2 kids in the last couple of years, there might have been a dress that I might have had and be like, I can't really wear that as a dress at the moment. Okay, how can I wear it as a top and put something else underneath it? Or how can I make this work for me? So I want you to think about what you've done already and give yourself full permission to simplify, to make it easier, to take care of yourself and to do the things that have already been done and lean into that simplification. So here's my final thought for today. I want you to check in at all times. Whenever you're working on parts of your business, when you have moments where you're not quite making the progress that you want. And ask yourself this very potent question, which is, am I making this more confusing? Am I overcomplicating it? How can I make this easier for myself? How can I do this and be in service to my own mental health? How can I deliver this and be in service to my clients? How can I really make this work for me right now and make it work brilliantly in terms of what is going on in the world? I hope you've gained lots from today. If you have, please do share a screenshot of this and share it on your Instagram. I would absolutely love that. And I would love it if you joined Jam and Plan as well. I've actually changed the date, so you've got a bit more time. I sense that given everything that's going on, I've shifted it back a week just to give us a bit more headspace to consider and digest what's going on in the world. So January's is the 27th of January now. It's an all-day event and you'll have a week of email support with me as well. And everything that I share in the 4 workshops during the day, which are fully recorded as well, is about simplification. How can you get from A to B? And I know this works. Like I've seen how people who did my June Jam and Plan, which is when I first started it, to now, how they've made moves, how they've changed, how they now have a business model that really works for them. So if you're interested in doing that, absolutely. And if you're interested in really simplifying your personal brand and really thinking about how you can use it to the best possible way, do check out your personal brand plan. So there are 4 stages to it, and you can read all about it on my website. All the links are down below. But if you go to nikkiraby.com/your personal brand plan, then there'll be lots of things to get stuck into. One final thing is I've launched 4 brand new masterclasses, which I've recorded this week, and they're all fresh and ready for you. So do get stuck into those. They're all free, and you can have one or you can have all 4, but they're very clear in that way. So do check them out. All right, have a lovely day, whatever you're doing. I don't know if lovely is the right adjective, but I'm thinking about you, and I will see you again on Monday. Lots of love. Bye.